Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. On tonight's show, we've got some great things coming up. In the Moto Showcase, we'll be taking a look at a 1975 RM 125M that was sent in by one of our viewers. In the What's It Worth segment, we'll be taking a look at a 1977 Honda CR125 that recently sold for $7,500. When you see the bike, you'll know exactly why it sold for that much. We've got a lot of announcements. We'll be looking at some things from the Carlsbad Reunion, but right now, let's get down to the starting line. The Carlsbad Reunion, Carlsbad 8, was this past weekend in Vista, California. It was an amazing event put on by Scott Burnworth and his wife, Debbie. They do a great job every year, as they have for the past 7 years, and once again, this one didn't disappoint. It was a who's who in motocross from the 70s and from the 80s. We saw people there such as Ricky Johnson and Donnie Hansen. There was also Jim Holley, Brock Glover, Billy Urban. We had, as you can see here, Gary Chaplin and Lars Larson. Sometime in the future, we're going to be showing more videos, but for right now, I can tell you that Marty Smith was there and just a host of other people. There was a beautiful Hodaka Super Rat, as you just saw in the previous slide, that was restored by Tommy Croft. Jack Penton was there, John Penton was there. So many greats from throughout the country came down to Vista to be with Scott Burnworth to get together on this Sunday, this very special Sunday that always happens after the San Diego Supercross. As I was just explaining to you a little while ago, in the future, we'll have some video and some interviews because I was lucky enough to be chosen by Scott Burnworth. I don't know if I was chosen. He said, Joe, here's the microphone, go around and start talking to people. So I did that. I got some interviews and some really great questions and answers from Rick Johnson and so many more. A lot of them are on Facebook right now. And because of the quality of the sound throughout that party, the sound wasn't that great. But we're going to be doing some things, be doing some editing, and be bringing you some of the highlights of that party. Once again, Scott and Debbie Burnworth, thank you so much for every year putting on that wonderful event that all of us look forward to. The Legends and Heroes was on display again this weekend in San Diego. Always the biggest draw, always. From anything there, more people hover around the Legends and Heroes Tour to see the old bikes than anything else. Now, I want to talk to you briefly about the Supercross coming up in Tampa this weekend, which coincides with the Legends and Heroes Tour. They need bikes. So, if you are going to be going to the Tampa Supercross this weekend, drop me a line after the show. Contact me any way you can. I'll give you a phone number to call. You can bring your bikes down to the Tampa Supercross to be on display at the Legends and Heroes. You'll get yourself a wristband, get some industry seating, and be able to see the race this weekend up close and personal the way we all like to do that. I'll be telling you a little bit more about it again at the end of the show. But remember, contact me. I'll tell you who to call, and we'll get you some passes for the Tampa Supercross. I also want to congratulate my friend, Gary Chaplin, for being inducted into the Legends and Heroes Hall of Fame. Gary, of course, a pioneer, I would say, in American motocross. He rode the early Inter-Ams, the Trans Am, always a staple on a Mako, always giving the Europeans a run for their money. Here he is with his beautiful family, his grandson Preston, son-in-law Craig, and his wife Anita accepting the Legends and Heroes induction. Gary, once again, you are a champion, and congratulations on your induction. We've got a trivia contest coming up a little bit later in the show. Preston Petty autographed number plate. Stay tuned. What you're going to need to do, though, don't forget, it's a call-in contest. So get your daughter's phone, get your son's phone, get somebody's phone if you're watching this from your own phone. If you're on your computer, you're in good shape. In a little while, we'll tell you how to get on the phone. I'll give you a question. You'll get on there and you'll win one of those Preston Petty autographed number plates. In the Why Not Try This segment tonight, here's a problem some of us have had in the past when bikes were new, but I'm seeing it sometime a little more today too with aftermarket parts. As you can see on this Yamaha, the number plate on the side has been melted through by the pipe. Originally, when these bikes came from the factory, there was some rubber insulators back there that would pop into the plate. Over the years, they get lost. And even some of the manufacturers, when they reproduce them, don't necessarily give you a place or holes where you should be drilling to put a rubber piece in there. So you'll wind up putting a brand new piece of plastic on your bike. Maybe it's reproduction. You've got a reproduction pipe. Maybe it's bent a little bit different than your stock pipe. Next thing you know, you're going to wind up with a side panel that looks like this. You're going to burn a hole through it. But I've got a solution to that. You want to keep your bike looking nice and fresh like this beautiful 1980 YZ125, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Right here, now this isn't my solution, but it is a solution that I saw and it does work. What someone has done is taken some fiberglass netting, and this is often used, some drag racers use it to wrap their pipes, some drag bikes I've seen use it. What this guy did was he put it around his pipe and he clamped it on. It serves the purpose, but it's not the neatest application I've ever seen. What I like to use is this product right here, aluminized heat barrier. It's like an aluminum foil on one side, it's relatively thick, and on the back side, you can peel away like you do a sticker, and you could stick it inside your number plate or your side plate of your bike. It contours nicely. You can use it either in just one section, like they're about 2 inches wide or 3 inches wide. You can cut it, you can bend it, you can make it a little further down, and you can protect your side panel from that exhaust. This is also a good idea if you've put a replacement pipe on your bike. Sometimes that pipe, depending on how the cones were made, sits up a little higher. It's getting awful close to your gas tank if you ride a bike with a plastic tank. You can take this stuff and also apply it underneath your tank to protect that as well. And that's my tip on that this week. In the Moto Showcase, Steve Heckert has sent us in a beautiful 1975 Suzuki RM 125. He did a beautiful job on the restoration with this bike. He took some liberties with it, like putting on an anodized DG radial head, certainly acceptable, a beautiful period correct item. The pipe is correct on this bike, and what he did was a fantastic job. And you can see that now as you look at the bike before he got it. It was in pretty rough shape, and I think the best thing about it really was the fact that he did have the correct pipe and silencer on that bike, which are very, very difficult to come by. But Steve did an excellent job resurrecting this motorcycle. Everything looks really nice on it. He did a beautiful job on the hardware, on the finishes. As you can see here, the chain adjusters, he's done the bolts, they've been replated. The shock springs look great, the sprocket. Everything on a bike really looks the way it should. I happen to really be a little partial to a 75 RM 125. It was one of my favorite bikes growing up. He's got his countershaft sprocket cover here, the way it should be. And right there you can see underneath the stamp of DG Performance. That certainly does authenticate the head on that bike. So Steve Heckert, you've done a beautiful job. Correct fender back there with the 2 holes, formerly from the TM model that Suzuki just used, put 2 plugs in there, and they had a sticker just like that on the back. This bike looks great from every angle. Steve did a magnificent job on it, and I want to thank him for sending it in to us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I don't think you could argue with that. Beautiful bike. Steve, for sending in your bike, we're going to get you some stickers from fastguystuff.com, just like you see back here on the board. We're going to get those out to you. Send me your address. We'll send you some stickers, and I want to thank you again for sending in this beautiful 75 RM 125. Here's the problem. This is the segment of the show each week where people send some questions in. We do our best to do a little research and give them an answer for the problem. Let's take a look at the first one, Jordan, shall we? It's from Jonathan Wood. On a Yamaha YZ80B forks, I can't get the small Phillips head screw to move underneath to take the fork apart. The screws are hidden deep in there, and I fear have that different Japanese head on them. Okay, here's what Jonathan's talking about. This lower leg right here is from a Honda. And on the bottom is where you have your Allen head bolt. Usually it's in there with a copper washer on it, but they're easy to access on these bikes. On a little YZ80, it's not, because the fork's a little bit longer and it's recessed up inside the fork, and it is, as he said, a Phillips type head or a JIS head. Here's what I would recommend. You've seen me talk about this tool before on the show. It's an impact driver. Looks like this. You can tighten things with it. You can loosen things with it by giving it a whap on the back with a good size hammer. Now, what it is, it's a 3/8 drive. So you want to take it and reduce it down to 1/4 inch. And then on this end, you want to have a 6mm socket. From there, you can use something like this. You'll find this like in a drywall screw gun. You could also find it separate in Home Depot and other hardware stores. The shank is standard on it and it fits right in here. What this is going to give you is the ability to get further inside that fork leg and be able to get that screw out without stripping it. And you know, just last week while I'm thinking about it, we were talking about a tip that was sent in by Sal Scarpa. He was saying something about using valve grinding compound inside of a screw when it starts to strip, or inside of a socket if you have a stripped nut. You might want to get a little valve grinding compound, put it on the tip of the screw, or the screw inside there, or on the screw gun tip here. This way you get a little extra bite on it when you go to hit it out. I hope that solves your problem. Thanks so much for sending in the question. What do we got next, Jordan? Fritz Gunther, what have you found is the best way to decarbon the inside of a two-stroke exhaust pipe? Fritz, I understand you recently built a vat for some fine Pinot grapes that you had. Why don't you just dip that pipe down in there? No? All right. Enough of the inside jokes with Fritz. Fritz, here's what you're going to do. You're going to buy something like this, and it looks like a baby bottle washer, but it's much bigger. You can get it in an auto parts store. You can get it online from places like Eastwood, and other companies. You want to do is you want to get one that's a little bit bigger than the inlet of your exhaust pipe. Your carbon buildup generally happens right where the pipe bends right at the beginning. It's not something that continues on throughout the whole pipe. So you want to get something like this, and if we go to the next slide, you can put it on a drill, and that rod that's on there, it flexes. In this picture, this guy happens to be using a ball hone, but I wouldn't really recommend using a ball hone to do this cleanup, okay? So you can put on like that wire brush that's like a bottle washer, put it on your drill. Yes, you could heat up that pipe a little bit using even MAP gas. I'm sure it'll get hot enough. If you have an oxyacetylene set, it'll get even hotter. After you do that, you'll be able to get in there with your drill, with that flexible rod on it, with the brush, and you'll be able to get all that carbon buildup out of there. Thanks for that question, Fritz. I think you got another one too. Many bikes use a dowel type sleeve in the cylinder base joint for alignment. Is there a good way to remove them without destroying them? Yeah, there is. And what Fritz is talking about, if you look up here in this picture, there's a picture of a dowel pin right there up on the left. If you look on the cylinder in the middle stud, you could see where it's around that 8mm stud. That lines up your head, so your head doesn't shift around on top of the cylinder. There's also one on the bottom of cylinders like this, okay? Fritz wants to know how you get them out. You can see it right here. A good way to do it, Fritz, is, of course, to heat those up as well. And what you can do is you can get a slightly bigger bolt or a rod. Now, those happen to be like a 10mm shank bolt will just about fit in there, but not quite. And you can thread it in, but you might wind up galling that dowel or spreading it out. What you can do is you can file down those threads a little bit. Just make it tight enough that you could tap that bolt into that dowel. Once you get in there good and tight, you've got your heat on there. You can get a pair of pliers or vice grips and put it on the dowel, not on the bolt. Put it on the dowel and you'll be able to twist it back and forth and you'll be able to lift it out of there. Those dowel pins, they're very inexpensive really. They're only a couple of bucks a piece. You should replace them, but you don't want to destroy the old ones taking them out or break them or crack them and have them break off down inside the cylinder. So that's one way of doing it. Paul Knudsen, can you share any ideas how to prevent magnesium parts from corrosion after restoration? Yeah, I can. The first and most important thing is to get them clean. What many people are using today is vapor honing. It's not the latest thing, but it seems to be, it's had all of a sudden a big surge in it in the vintage motocross world. Here on the screen, you can see the carburetor on the left has been vapor blasted. The one on the right, of course, is still kind of crusty and grimy. On the Bultaco cover below, all the way to the left, you'll see how it looked originally. In the middle, that's glass bead. I would say it's probably A or AAA. It leaves kind of a rough finish, and it also does remove some of the aluminum, which is why a lot of guys don't like to use it. All the way to the right where it says TACO, T-A-C-O, that's been vapor honed. That is going to make it nice and clean. That vapor hone is a slurry mix with water under high pressure. It's done inside of like a bead blasting cabinet, and it's really going to get into the pores of the aluminum and clean it out really, really well. What can you do to keep it looking that way? Well, you could polish it afterward. That's going to keep it looking really nice too. But if you don't want too high of a finish, you're going to have to put some kind of coating over it. Now, we can talk here for an hour about how many different types of waxes and polishes and protectants there are on the market. Find one, choose one, read about it, and then keep your part finished with some kind of wax or polish like that, and that's the way you're going to keep it clean. That's my tip on that. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we're going to take a look at a 1977 Honda CR1. It's a CR125. It says CR1250 on here, but that's okay. CR125. And when I first looked at it on eBay, it said $7,500, and my eyes popped out of my head. Yeah, it looked like a nice bike, and I saw the Fox shocks and the aluminum swing arm and the Simon's forks, but I wasn't so sure about $7,500. As I got a closer look and I started to read about it, they said it was a Steve Wise replica, which it certainly does look like a Steve Wise replica, and it looks like a bike that was built years ago, probably by Scott Steger. He built a lot of those going back into the late 90s, early 2000s, sold a lot of them. This bike, as I look closer, also had an authentic Mugen kit on it. The cylinder, the head, it had an up pipe. It was a beautiful job done on this bike. It looked like it was raced a few times or ridden at least. I see a little paint worn off of the frame. The hardware wasn't done, but the rims are nice. It's a real nice piece, and I think somebody paid the right money for it. I think the buyer and the seller did very, very well. Not a whole lot of people out there in the market for a $7,500 125. And then again, there aren't a lot of people or a lot of places that someone who's after a bike like this can go buy it. I'm thinking that the guy is probably going to disassemble it, maybe ride it a few times, then disassemble it. All the heavy lifting's been done. Disassemble it, redo the hardware, repaint the frame, and he's going to have himself a beautiful showpiece when he's done with all the trick right items on it from the period. Fox shocks, Thor arm, up pipe, Mugen cylinder. The Simon's forks alone, probably worth a couple $1,000. So I thought it was a good buy. There it is, the Steve Wise replica Honda 77 CR125. Oh, it was sold in Nevada, by the way, earlier in December. Trivia, here it comes. I've got a question for you. The first person that calls in with the right answer is going to win an autographed Preston Petty number plate. That's autographed by Preston Petty, not me, just to make things clear. So here's the question. Oh, you know what I wanted to tell you too? I wanted to tell you that we are an authorized dealer for Preston Petty. And we're really, really grateful to Paul Stannard for making us an authorized dealer. So if you are looking for any of those wonderful Preston Petty products that we've all grown accustomed to and we all loved as young guys growing up, you can contact us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. We are an authorized dealer. We'll work out something with PayPal. You send us a payment, we'll get your shipment right away. Thank you, Paul Stannard, for authorizing us to be a Preston Petty dealer. Now, back to the trivia thing. I'd like somebody out there to name any 4 sets, that's 8 people, any 4 sets of brothers that have raced professional motocross. This is for a live audience only. You're going to call in. The number is 925-234-8181. Operators are standing by right now to take your call. What? We don't have operators yet? We've got all this fancy graphic stuff and the sound and the... Sue's inside. She's going to take your call. The first person to call me at 925-234-8181. You got to give me 4 sets of brothers that have raced professional motocross. It's kind of tricky. You might know some old ones. There's a couple of modern guys in there too. Give us a call. We'll get you a plate out to you. Jordan, I got to take a sip of water.
Let's take a commercial.
We're going to take a commercial break right now.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vmxq knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vmxq, keep the ride going.
Okay, great commercial from Vmxq. Next up, the Vintage Motocross Q&A product spotlight. I got so excited with that Preston Petty thing before telling you about the trivia contest. That's why I got into Vintage Motocross Q&A being an authorized dealer for Preston Petty. Being we've gone over that already, there's no need for me to tell you that again. But Preston Petty, The products are out there again. Paul Stannard has resurrected the brand with the blessing of Preston Petty, and they are making everything that they used to make in the old days, from the integrated taillight fenders to the Preston Petty mutters, along with so many other things that we absolutely love. If you're restoring a bike such as this TT500, which is done by my friend Dave Coupe, you can see that the Preston Petty fenders just bring that bike to life. One of our operators is standing by with the answer.
Tony Mosley.
Tony Mosley?
Yeah, but he's got...
You got him on speaker?
Yeah.
Tony.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good. I got your brothers for you.
You do?
I do.
Tony Mosley, what do you got?
Well, let's start with the oldest. We're going to have the Jones.
You got to give me... What are their names, Tony? I'm not just going to take the Joneses. You got to go deep, brother.
Oh, my God. Dwayne and...
Go on.
Jones, shoot. Okay, Mike and Marty Tribes.
That's right.
Gary and Dwayne Jones.
Correct.
Tyson and Talon Voland.
Yeah, excellent.
H-L-A-N-D. That set her back a minute.
That's right.
And Tyler and Adam Enticknap. E-N-T-I-C-K-N-A-P.
Tony Mosley, you have really run the gamut here with old guys and new guys. And you know what? Some other answers to these questions would have been, of course, James and Malcolm Stewart. And there's the Martin brothers, too.
Yeah, the Stewart's too easy, though.
Well, yeah, but
that's
you know what it is, Tony. I'm trying to get the younger people to watch the show, so I'm doing what I can. But Tony Mosley, of course, of Kawasaki fame, I want to thank you for calling in. Susie is going to get your address, and we're going to get you a Preston Petty number plate out to you as soon as we can.
Well, wait, can we donate that to somebody?
If you'd like, sure. Who would you like to donate it to? Or do you want?
Find a deserving listener and donate it to a deserving listener.
Donate it to a deserving listener. Okay. You know, Tony, that's very, very generous of you to give back like that. Thank you so much. We'll find someone, and we'll get it out to him, Tony. Thank you again.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks, brother.
Enjoy your show.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boy, people in the vintage motocross community really know how to give back. Classy guy, Tony Mosley. In the announcements tonight, the 2020 Supercross in Tampa is coming up. As I mentioned to you earlier, Legend and Heroes is still looking for some bikes to display down there in Tampa. So drop me a message after the show. I'll give you a number of someone to call. If you're in the area of Tampa, you want to get down there and watch the Supercross and get some great industry seating, you bring a bike down and we're going to hook you up with some tickets. The Legend and Heroes are going to do that for you. As usual, their display will always be top-notch, and there's no better way to describe it. And that's where the vintage people come together, just like Tony Mosley just did. So many people coming together in the vintage community to make that display what it is. Who's ready to scramble? Sunday, February 23rd, Tammy Greenhill. Once again, we'll be putting on another race at Glen Helen. It's the Old School Scrambles Racing Group. They're at Glen Helen on the truck track, which is perfect for vintage guys, for guys with a shorter travel bike. And what else do they give you down there? How about any new rider rides for free, courtesy of Rod Lake Racing? And kids always ride free. It's one of the best deals in town. Tammy and Ralph Greenhill putting that on, I think, for the second or third year down at Glen Helen. It's a great little series. They run the whole thing right there at Glen Helen. So go down there, support Tammy and her group. Much like you saw a little bit earlier in the show, we need bikes. We need bikes for the motocross, the moto showcase. So if you send in some pictures, we'll get you on if we choose your bike. In turn, we're going to get you a fastguys.com sticker pack. Everybody gets one who sends in a bike. We love giving it away. We want to thank Sean Gomes for being a product sponsor for Vintage Motocross Q&A at fastguystuff.com. You should go check out their website. They got a lot of cool stuff over there. Not just the stickers that we're showing here on the show. They got a bunch of other stuff too. Jordan, we're still looking for sponsors for Vintage Motocross Q&A. You know, the things you're seeing this week, the graphics, the way we're able to switch back and forth and do a picture-in-picture, how the lighting is improved, how the sound is improved, that's all made possible by people like Vmxq&A, by people like Sean Gomes, and those stepping up to the plate wanting to become a sponsor. Our package is out there with several different people right now. We're expecting to see some other things in the future, and once we get that rolling, we'll be able to bring you more content and a little bit better program. When I say better program, because some of the things that we have now, as far as technical stuff goes, I'll be able to make videos during the week. We'll be able to edit them, and we'll be able to bring them up on the screen and show them to you the way we just showed you the Vmxq commercial a little bit earlier. So I might be telling you something about how to drill a fender, how to do something on a bike, and we'll go to it like we did the commercial. You'll be able to see that. How we do that is through sponsors. We spend our money on getting better equipment. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, the Terry Good fundraiser, that's coming up July 11th out in the North Shore of Chicago. Am I going to go? Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go myself. Would I like to take Jordan with me and this beautiful camera and all these things to really get some great videos and be live there with an organized group of people that probably haven't been together in, who knows, some of them 40, 50 years? Will some of them ever come back to America again? We don't know. I'd like to be there. Maybe you want to sponsor that trip for Vintage Motocross Q&A, me and Jordan. Let me know about that. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A this week. You can always see reruns of the show and all the other episodes we've done on our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm Joe Abate.